Hello. Welcome to the third installment of the OpenTreeMapUS Town Hall. The goal of these town halls is to let you get acquainted with candidates for OpenTreeMapUS board. Or if you haven't decided to run yet, you can ask questions and learn more about what it's like to be on the board. We have no one signed up to be on the board or to run for the board yet. But we do have lots to talk about, lots that we can talk about when it comes to running for the board and what it's like to be on the board. Since I'm the only one here right now, it might seem kind of weird because I'm talking to myself, but the point of these is that in the future, they'll be archived and recorded so that people in the future can understand what it's like and use this as a point of reference for participating in OpenStreetMapUS. So I think I'm going to start off by just talking a little bit about who I am and what it's like to be on the board. We have kind of touched base on this a little bit in the past. There are a couple other similar recordings that happened last week and this past weekend. This past weekend, there were a few more people that are not currently on the board that talked a little bit about what they'd like to see on the board, and the town hall before that was related to what it's like to be on the board. So if you'd like more perspective than just what I'm about to say, feel free to look at our channel and get the same sort of information, but from a different perspective. So my name is Ian Dees. I am currently the treasurer of OpenStreetMapUS board, and that means that I spend most of my time when I'm working on OpenStreetMapUS stuff on the financial aspects of OpenStreetMapUS. So I do things like write checks. I take in money from sponsors and coordinate with donors and pay for things like the state of the map. And that's a really fulfilling job because I get to make sure that our money is being used in a wise and thoughtful way. And it also is one of the busier things to do on the board. We have to keep track of money things for taxes. We have to make sure our taxes get filed. We have a lot of help to do that, but there is still things that the board has to do to make sure that those things get done. So with that in mind, I think we could also talk a little bit about what other people on the board do. We have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, that's me, a vice president, and an at-large position. And traditionally, those roles all have responsibilities. And I think OpenStreetMapUS, the board, has done a pretty good job of spreading those responsibilities out amongst everybody. And we all take turns running the meetings. We all take turns taking notes at meetings. And we try to spread that out so that if one of us isn't available, then somebody else is able to pick up that slack. That's really helpful, especially when the OpenStreetMapUS board is busy or is working on something like State of the Map. And that kind of ability to spread out our work amongst people is very helpful. I see that there is one person watching, and so I'm trying to look at the chat to see if there's any questions coming in. I do want to point out that one of the best ways to reach us is through email. You can ask questions or get information about anything related to OpenStreetMapUS by emailing us at board@openstreetmap.us. You can also reach us on Slack. Our Slack is free to join and doesn't cost anything because we're a nonprofit. And so you can join and ask questions about OpenStreetMap in general, or OpenStreetMapUS in particular, and especially the board is all there and very reactive to questions. All of these things are available on our website, OpenStreetMap.us. And you can also reach out to us on Twitter and on the mailing lists for sure, on the OpenStreetMap, especially Talk US mailing list. We all pay attention there. I'm also usually on IRC, although my computer just crashed. And so I'm not listening to IRC right now. So I'll sign in right now and see if anybody is there. I'm actually signing into one of the services that OpenTreeMapUS runs is a server that is sitting in rack space donated by Oregon State University's Open Source Lab. That's something that we've worked together on for several years. It's currently not doing anything other than acting as a place for a bot to run periodically. So one of the things that we have traditionally worked on is trying to get local community room for local community projects to run on servers. And so if you have a project that you'd like to see run, or if you have an idea for a project, we can help coordinate with other folks who might have that same sort of idea and make sure that it runs and is visible to the rest of the community. An example might be there's a bot that I wrote that runs on this server that announces new users in the United States onto our Slack channel. And that's very useful for welcoming new users to OpenStreetMap. And I encourage everybody to check out the New Mappers channel on Slack to participate in that and to welcome new mappers. That's one thing that is very popular in Slack, is to pay attention to the New Mappers channel and welcome new mappers. We also include the city and state for where they first started mapping, and a link to the change set so you can easily welcome them. That's a very useful tool. Let's see, what else can we talk about here? Another thing that is a very important aspect of OpenStreetMapUS is the State of the MapUS conference that we run every year. The conference planning is beginning now, and we are searching for people who are excited to make a submission for a location. The location statement of interest doesn't have to be very detailed. You just have to say that you have done some research about where it could be and some dates about when it could be. And that would, we can work with you then to figure out how best to handle that and how to participate as a group. And we can help you pull off the more detailed aspect of that if you'd like. We also, OpenStreetMapUS will also coordinate sponsorship and do things like pay for food and all that sort of thing. And all you have to do as a local group is be there and be a participant in the process of getting it set up. That's a really fulfilling thing to do, and I'm actually planning on putting a bid in for Minneapolis, which is where I live. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope other people participate as well. And finally, the third thing that we've been working on lately, other than this election that this town hall is supposed to be about, is hiring a new, our first employee. We're seeking somebody, we're thinking about hiring an executive director, which is a very interesting thing. It'll be the first executive or higher level position that's paid to be directly interfaced with OpenStreetMap in any of the local chapters or OpenStreetMap Foundation. And I'm looking forward to being able to rely on this person to participate in the community and to lead some of the things that we've been trying to do as OpenTreeMapUS for several years. And so I'm looking forward to finally being able to do that. The thing that the OpenTreeMapUS board needs now is people to participate in the hiring committee for that person. There's a blog post on our website about that that has more details, but the general idea is that we're looking for people who are interested in spending some time talking to candidates and helping us look for recruit candidates and to find the right person to be in that position. We have Naveen. Hi. Recruit candidates and to find the right person to be in that position. I'm going to mute you because I'm wondering if you're just watching. That's okay though. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Cool. What I was talking about was the executive director position, and it would be great to have somebody who is excited to be part of OpenStreetMap and to be part of that community. Bye, Naveen. So I think the next step there is that we're going to convene a hiring committee, and that committee will be fairly small, but so we'll only be able to have a few people from the community on that committee. But the important part there is that there's room for lots of participation around and helping with that process, not just on the committee. Hi, Josh. If you have a question, feel free to ask in the chat there, or you can unmute yourself and ask as well. I'm currently treating this like a podcast because I'm the only one talking, but feel free to join the conversation.
So, yeah, actually, I have a question, and this is fun. It's on the E&D's podcast. So,
yeah, this is good.
I know you guys had talked before about editing behavior and folks on the board. And so I was just curious, as someone who probably does more with OSM data on the dev side as opposed to like contributing constantly, what would you be looking for with someone planning on joining the board if maybe they were not the heaviest editor of data, but still overly involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the mandate of the OpenStreetMapUS board is to promote the OpenStreetMap project in the United States. It doesn't say anything about editing, or there's no priority made for people who edit. And in fact, I would imagine that a lot of the people on the board currently and in the past don't have much editing in their user history on OpenStreetMap. And that's not because they hate OpenStreetMap, that's because they're busy doing other things that help OpenStreetMap. And so if you are somebody who's interested in helping OpenStreetMap, that's not necessarily an editor, that's perfectly okay. And I personally won't be, when I'm voting, I'm not going to look at anybody's editing history. That I don't think is a important aspect of OpenTreeMapUS board. What is important is somebody who's excited and passionate about OpenStreetMap. And I can totally understand that some people would view an edit count or some kind of metric like that as a barometer for passion about OpenStreetMap. But I think there's lots of other ways that you can display your passion for OpenStreetMap than just editing. You could participate in code, you could participate in events, you could be a avid user of OpenStreetMap, like the website or the data. You could be a corporate user of OpenStreetMap, like your company participates in OpenStreetMap in some way, or you could just be a really somebody who's really excited about community development, and all of those kind of aspects are very useful to somebody who's on the OpenTreeMapUS board. That's a very good question, Josh. I would say that in general, the OpenTreeMapUS board is zero OpenStreetMap editing to give a concrete amount there. I would say that we spend most of our time doing things like planning for OpenStreetMapUS and coordinating efforts of other people, coordinating the efforts of other people who are excited about OpenStreetMap. Giving an example of the things that we're trying to do that are kind of around editing, but not necessarily directly related to editing. One of those is we support mapathons by sponsoring food and drink. You can send us an email and we will cover, I think, up to $250 worth of non-alcoholic, I think, beverages and pizza or food or whatever that's related to your event. I think you don't have to, but it's strongly encouraged to send along a report of what the event was like, just so that we can get it up on the blog, so that we have something to share about what the OpenStreetMap community is doing. That's not related to editing directly, but we do support editing for sure. I think I caused Slack to go down. There's so many people excited about asking me questions that Slack is now not responding. The power of OpenStreetMap compels you to come back online. While I'm looking at Slack here that's crashing, I do notice that there's 663 people in our Slack team. So if there's 3 people who are watching that aren't members of OpenStreetMapUS Slack, then we would have 666 people, and that would be very devilish. Don't worry, Slack is back. Josh, do you have any other questions? Because you're the only person here, I'm going to have to keep asking you questions.
No, I was just resisting the urge to get on Slack and send you some sort of devil GIF or image. So I've got another question in the chamber, I guess, for you. You mentioned like corporations, and maybe this isn't the appropriate question for. I guess this is like a candidates forum.
Yep. That's okay though.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the E&D's podcast. So,
Yeah.
what is the involvement of corporations like with OpenStreetMapUS? Is it looking for involvement in terms of creating and participating mapping parties? Is it looking for sponsorships for conferences? Is it looking to them to kind of lead some of the development work to kind of further along what OSMUS does, or kind of where do they fall into the ecosystem?
That's a good question. I think, especially in the OpenStreetMapUS ecosystem, corporations can have a very strong participation. I, I think there's no real official way of participating for a corporation like there is with OpenStreetMap Foundation, where there's a corporate sponsorship or a corporate membership in the OpenStreetMap Foundation. But the the primary way that a corporation currently interacts with OpenStreetMapUS board is through State of the MapUS sponsorship. As we get closer to hiring somebody, one of the goals for that person, for me at least, is that they would seek fundraising to help pay for themselves and to also help OpenStreetMapUS and OpenStreetMap, the community, do more things. This kind of gets back to something that has been kind of holding OpenStreetMapUS back a little bit, which is because the OpenStreetMapUS board does so much work to keep itself running, the board has very little time to keep doing other things like build scaffolding to have corporate entities participate in OpenStreetMapUS. And so one of the things that I'm looking forward to with hiring somebody is to give some room there so that the OpenStreetMapUS board can have some more leadership on what corporate entities can do in OpenStreetMapUS, and to build that scaffolding and the thought behind that about what could happen. Right now, we're so focused on things like running the elections and hiring somebody and State of the MapUS that we don't have enough time to do other things that are more interesting. So that's kind of where we're at now. I think that corporate entities or institutional entities, just in general, could be a lot more involved in OpenStreetMap in general, and I think OpenStreetMapUS might be a safe place to do that. There's a lot of, I know that there's a lot of corporate and institutional entities that use OpenStreetMap but don't feel comfortable talking about it in public. And so there's a lot of questions about how to communicate with the community and how to talk about what you're doing and how to interact with the rest of the community that kind of have to be figured out by themselves. And if there was a place for these corporate entities to talk amongst themselves and to interact with people like the board or with a group of community members that that kind of understand the confidentiality requirements around some of these people, like some of the entities, I think that would be an interesting thing for OpenStreetMap to have. I would imagine this is like the advisory board for OpenStreetMap Foundation, but it would be another place to have that kind of conversation. That is, so I'm trying to think of other things that a corporation could participate. I do think that you mentioned like mapping parties, and I think that there's some really good examples of corporations mapping with missing maps and HOT and those kind of systems that lead to contributions to OpenStreetMap that are kind of sourced from within a corporation. It would be great to have OpenTreeMapUS lead some of that too. I don't know what that would look like. I also don't want to step on the toes of other folks who are running programs like that. But that would be kind of the thing that I would be interested in. So we're coming up on half an hour, and Josh, you're the only person that has asked any questions. So you are going to get a special bonus gold token that I'm going to make up at some point. And I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be cool. I'll have to figure out something to send you.
I'm shaking my hands in the air.
Yeah.
Like I just don't care.
It's so exciting. Boy, what else can we talk about for the next 60 seconds? I know that there's at least 2 people that are watching this who are on Slack right now because they posted devil icons when I talked about 666. So they're in on the joke, and I wonder if Kate or Austin would be interested in asking any questions or running for the board. Those are the 2 options on this chat. You can either ask questions or run for the board. If you don't ask questions, you have to run for the board. So maybe we could close out by saying how you run for the board. Because that would be a good thing to talk about. So the way that you, the process is talked about on the OpenStreetMap wiki. If you go to wiki.openstreetmap.org and you do a search for the 2017 election, oh, it's not, sorry, OpenTreeMapUS 2017 election. There's also a link in our blog post that Brian, who just joined, talked about in a blog post. Brian, why isn't my, there it is, right there. Oh, because we never linked to it on the, yeah, that's fine. So anyway, to run for the board, you go to openstreetmap.us/blog and read the blog post about the elections. There's a link in there to a wiki page. And on that wiki page, excuse me, sorry. On that wiki page, there's a list of candidates, which you can add yourself to. And once you add yourself to that list, you've been nominated. Somebody will second you. And you are also required to write a manifesto or a position statement that details what kind of things you'd like to see happen in your tenure as a board member. And based on that list of candidates, that's who will show up on the ballot. The ballot will be ranked choice voting, and we'll send that out sometime in February. All these details are listed on the blog post that Brian posted. Thank you, Brian.
Hello.
It's very dark where you are. There's a cat next to you.
Yep.
Well, Brian, do you have any questions, or do you want to make any statements
No,
before we close out?
You covered like all the technical aspects of the election, and that's great.
Good. I hope I did, at least.
Yeah.
And as usual, if there's any questions about this, or if I missed anything, or if you have any feedback, please like, comment, and subscribe, or send us an email.
Did you mention the channel on Slack called
Yes.
Board Forum?
Yes, that's a good mention. We have, we have a channel in Slack called Board-Forum, which is a great way for folks to ask us questions. You can hang out there and ask the board. Both current and previous board members are there. Ask them any questions, including about this conversation and about the elections in general. Okay, so I am going to thank you all for joining us, especially Josh and especially Brian for being a part of the Hangout, so it didn't look like I was all by myself in my office. And I look forward to getting emails with questions about this and seeing new people listed on the wiki page when I look at it after this, because everybody's so excited to run. Otherwise, have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
See ya.